What's up, TME gang? Welcome back to our YouTube channel. I'm Amy, and I'm obsessed with cotton gauze. I fell in love with cotton gauze a couple years ago, and I just became so obsessed. I love linen. I love all the benefits of linen. I love the way linen looks, but cotton gauze is basically the softer version. And when I figured that out, I started collecting all of the pieces I could, and I have lived in it since. While I was trying to find some new pieces to freshen up my cotton gauze wardrobe this year, I decided to try a few from Gap and Quince and figured we would try them on together and compare them. Before we move forward, I just want to let you know that every piece you're gonna see is linked below in this YouTube if you want direct access. Quince didn't necessarily make direct alternatives of the Gap pieces. I noticed that Gap is making much more modern silhouettes when it comes to their cotton gauze and even their linen, whereas Quince is staying very classic in their silhouettes. First things first, let's talk about their button-up tops. Gap naturally makes their pieces a little bit more oversized these days, which I personally love. So I stuck with a large in their cotton gauze button down, whereas I went with an extra large in Quince because I have found that Quince runs a little bit more classic and fitted in their silhouettes. When you hold up the large and the extra large, they're actually extremely similar. The blue might be a tad bit longer in the back, and Gap's shoulders feel like they might be a little bit more broad, which feels like it's right on the money for what I said in Gap running a little bit more oversized and Quince staying timeless, because these are two different sizes and they're very similar. When it comes to the feel of them, Gap is actually quite softer. It almost feels like it's a double gauze. It's a little bit thicker. It's a little bit more like lotiony to the touch, whereas Quince has more of a linen feel. It's a little bit more rough and it's definitely more thin. Now, when it comes to the thick and thinness, I don't feel like either of these are worse or better, because you're gonna want these in different situations. If you like to stay covered up in really hot weather, you're gonna look for the lightest, thinnest option, and that's gonna be Quince. But if you're just looking for a really good, classic, soft button-up for Gap, this one's soft. This one's really nice. When it comes to pricing, Gap is not a very expensive brand by any means. They keep their prices pretty reasonable, especially in the sense that they run a lot of sales, and that makes things much more accessible. But full price, this is about $70. However, I think I got mine on sale for about $48.50. Full price, Quince has theirs at $45. Quince doesn't often run sales because they naturally keep their prices so low. When it comes to the tops, Quince is the more affordable option, but if you're shopping around Gap sale times, they're gonna be very comparable in price. Quince has more color options at the moment of me reviewing this, which I thought was interesting. Gap usually has a really good handful of colors, but I think what's been happening is they've been selling out. So Gap has been stocking their summer pieces and putting them on sale, and for that reason, colors are flying. So if you find one you like in your size, I would suggest buying it from Gap. Otherwise, look to Quince because, like I said, they're stocking a pretty good color range right now. When it comes to Quince versus Gap cotton gauze pants, the feel is very similar, pretty much identical to the top. Gap definitely feels almost more of like a double cotton and it's softer. Quince has more of a rough linen feel and it's very thin. Great for hot weather. Great if you prefer something softer straight out of the gate. The silhouettes of these are very different. I could not find a pant that was just like a very good similar option to each other, because like I said, Gap is making much more modern silhouettes. So they're doing a barrel leg shape, which I think is so cool. I do think they might have other shapes. They might have like a baggy wide leg, but I could not pass up trying a cotton gauze barrel silhouette. Are you kidding me? Like, that's so cool. Quince, on the other hand, did a straight leg pant, and it looks to slightly taper at the bottom. Not my personal like first choice, but I will say that the benefit is that they come with a drawstring, and the barrel pants from Gap do not. Gap has 2 front pockets and 2 bum pockets, which I think is great. Quince just has 2 front pockets, no pockets on the bum, which honestly, some people might prefer. When it comes to sizing, I do feel like I was shooting in the dark a little bit. Quince bottoms tend to run smaller for me. I am on average a medium in bottoms. However, when I read the reviews, people were saying that these ran big. Gap, on the other hand, runs big for me when it comes to bottoms. So I grabbed a small in theirs, and I also grabbed the tall inseam because that is one place that Gap definitely outshines Quince and a lot of retailers, is that Gap has multiple inseam options. which we as tall girls love. Going into this, I don't feel like I had any predictions because both Gap and Quince have become some of my very favorite brands to shop at. I love them both so much, which is why I wanted to compare these pieces. But I will say that after trying them both on, Gap surprisingly feels like they went the extra mile with these pieces. I'm curious to know what your thoughts are. Drop us a comment. Let me know if you had any questions about the pieces. Let me know if you had opinions on the pieces. Either way, I'd love to know. And as always, all the pieces that I showed here are linked down below if you want direct access. Thanks for hanging out with me. Until next time, guys, I love you. Bye.